So we got 9 more days before the 2024 year is over. And professional wrestling has been crazy. We've seen it all. But AEW suffered probably the most painful year in the 5-year existing history because their ratings went down. There was so many negative stuff, news coming in and out from wrestlers who were not happy. And we're going to go and talk about this, and we're going to look into AEW, the rise, the fall, and the future. We're going to be talking about that and much more on the Chokeslam Wrestling Report, episode 224, and we are live.
Is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Here we are back at the, I'm having issues here with this, the monitor here. And again, anything can happen live. And that's the problem when it comes to doing things live. Here we are, the Chokeslam Wrestling Report. I am your host, the infamous Ultimate One. And I was having technical issues earlier. When I got on live, no one could hear me. My microphone was not working. So here I am again, and I know I sent out requests for people to watch the live feed, and of course I had to stop. I want to give thanks to my boy Mike, who hit me up and said he could not hear me. So here we are again. So let's talk about AEW and what has happened to them. As you see my title, The Rise, the Fall, the Future. For AEW, and AEW this year started off real bad, if you really want to put it that way. When AEW last year, when they ended the last pay-per-view, which was World's End, we know that the biggest story back then was the Devil, who was behind the Devil mask. And we had the Adam Cole and the MJF situation, and that was one of the best storylines they had. Even though I wasn't too happy that Jay White was in the middle of all this storyline, and he ended up coming out short of the short end of the stick. And we saw the ending of the World's End with Samoa Joe beat MJF for the title, and the Devil was revealed, and it turned out there was Adam Cole, and the Undisputed Kingdom was behind the whole thing. But soon as the year started, we all knew that, first of all, Adam Cole was not going to be in the ring anytime soon because of, his situation and whatnot, and he was hurt. He had I think he broke his ankle, and I think in 2 places. MJF was hurt also, so he was going to be out for months. But it wasn't because of the storyline. Well, one of it was because of the storyline, because now we saw Roderick Strong was the one who was carrying much of the Undisputed Kingdom, their storyline. But AEW felt dull. Without MJF around, Adam Cole hurt, Miro was not around, and we kept on seeing all these wrestlers getting hurt. But AEW tried to bounce back by bringing in Kazuchika Okada, New Japan's legend and whatnot. They brought in Will Ospreay, but the year didn't start because of all this stuff. The year started bad the minute when Tony Khan was in the pretty much, he was on Twitter ranting, going off, and just going back and forth, talking about WWE. And at one point, he was just having a meltdown on Twitter, where he spoke about WWE, that WWE was trying to get his contract wrestlers, and while his mom was in the hospital. And then I started thinking, like, what is going on with Tony Khan? Tony Khan is just making his company look worse and bad by the day When I started questioning, why is he the one promoting the company when he could just use one of their top guys and go to these podcasts, to these radio shows in this city and try to get your company promoted somewhere and somehow. But that's not what he was doing. Oh, no, he was not doing that and whatnot. What he was doing was just ranting and raving and whatnot. So while he was having a meltdown, WWE decided to put Mr. CM Punk in some show, Hawani, I think with Aro Hawani, whatever his name is. And sure enough, CM Punk went there, so I was talking about what had happened at All In 2023 between him and Jack Perry behind the scenes. And again, I was saying to myself, why are we still talking about this? And I felt like WWE was pretty much setting up Mr. Tony Khan, because they probably was seeing him having this meltdown on Twitter. Sure enough, CM Punk went in to have this interview, talked bad about the AEW during WrestleMania week, and next thing you know, you had Tony Khan go out of nowhere and display the footage, the video footage from London in the all-in situation between CM Punk and Jack Perry. That did not sit well with a lot of wrestling fans. That turned off a lot of wrestling fans who were AEW wrestling fans, were turned off by this and whatnot. As it turned out, since they were turned off by this, that's when we started seeing the numbers going down on the TV show. Okay. Now, mind you, the wrestling pay-per-views were good, but the show was going down, and it wasn't until it hit rock bottom. At one point, they even had Tony Khan put himself in a situation where he got attacked by the Young Bucks and Okada and the Young Bucks, and they pretty much got tombstone or whatever it was, and it made it seem like, oh my God, the Young Bucks just attacked Tony Khan. So I'm like, wait a minute, is he trying to be Vince McMahon? Then next thing you know, you saw Tony Khan with a neck brace at the end of NFL's draft. And I started saying, well, why are you doing this? But it got worse. It got worse as the month progressed, and it wasn't the pay-per-views. The pay-per-views were good, but it was the show, AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage, AEW Collision. The numbers were going down. The NBA playoffs was around during the summer, and his numbers were going down. NXT then ended up going to CW in September, and AEW started getting trounced. Even though they were not head-to-head, but even if they were head-to-head, WWE will bring in their main roster guys, and they will go and do what they had to do. You know what I'm saying? And it was crazy. It was crazy because at the end of the day, you saw NXT, who was not that good during the whole time they were in USA Network, was trouncing AEW Dynamite almost every week. A point where AEW, had their worst and probably the lowest ratings in the whole year was 329,000 views. That's Collision numbers. That's Rampage numbers. These were the numbers that AEW Dynamite, the flagship show, was getting. And who's to blame for this? Was Tony Khan. Meanwhile, you had the Will Ospreay, you had the Kazuchika Okada in your roster, and they weren't pretty much doing anything. Will Ospreay won the international title twice. Didn't hold to that belt very long. He had a nice little run with MJF. He had a great match with Swerve, and Swerve had a little nice run as a world champion, but it wasn't enough. Then you have Chris Jericho still running around thinking that he's still Mr. Pay-Per-View, that he brings seats, bring butts to the seats. Jericho should just retire. It's gotten so bad that they had Jericho right now pretty much trying to bring some prestige on to the Ring of Honor title, the Ring of Honor world title. I think he has won the belt 3 times, probably 3 or 2 times. He has won the belt twice, and this is what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's just to show you that Tony Khan has no idea what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? He needs help, but he's being stubborn, and that's been the problem. And that's been that was that bad part. I mean, even though the meltdown was kind of ugly, but that's the bad part. The ugly part is what's going on. First of all, the report that came that Miro wanted out of his contract. I don't know if Miro's been let go of his contract or he's still under them. But then we had a situation what happened with Pentagon and Phoenix when Penta and Phoenix decided that they were not going to re-sign with AEW. But before their contracts were over, there were reports coming in that Penta was doing business with WWE, even though they were under contract. People were outraged, talking about, if they could work with WWE. No, you can't. You're under contract. And the contract stays, you got to finish your contract and then you could go. But what happened was, and I brought this up last week when I said Conan has something to do with this whole thing with Penta and Phoenix stuff, because then Phoenix, who's been always hurt because he's reckless in the ring, he's always doing outrageous moves and getting himself hurt, had time tacked to his contract because of injury. And people were outraged about that. And then Tony Khan didn't make the situation much better because then he did a statement, which I think it was a bogus statement or somebody just did this online because, people are just, creepos and got nothing better to do but live in mom's basement and shit. Where they state that, Tony Khan made a statement talking about he was sorry, that he didn't know he needed it. That's how I knew that was bogus. That was Photoshop. That whole shit. Because first of all, when Phoenix started putting on the Twitter that he was treated inhumane and that he didn't have no doctor, that the AEW did not help him with the doctor stuff and all that, I was like, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. First of all, the guy don't speak English. So I'm sure he got translated by somebody. That person went and added stuff into the Twitter situation and added more that I'm sure that he probably said. But the crazy part about it is that, this has been the bad. The good stuff. The good thing that I could say, because most of everything has been bad and ugly, especially the meltdown. The man, I guess, figure out after these meltdowns he had at the beginning of the year that he was going to back up because now everybody was attacking him also because, there's not people showing up at these shows. The arenas are empty. But we all know people take pictures before even the show starts and whatnot. And to make it seem like, look, AEW got nobody. And they post it on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram because, these clowns got nothing better to do. Okay. I just saw online this week, or matter of fact, this morning, somebody said, they need to, there was some wrestle takes. They were like, NXT outdrew AEW, but I think NXT was in lower Massachusetts. AEW was in Hammerstein Ballroom. They outdrew them. The stupidity of people is that they don't understand that tickets are sold according to how much the capacity of people are allowed in the building, but people want to talk crap. But then again, I think Tony Khan, excuse me, looks at stuff like that. It probably gets to him, and it's crazy. And it's crazy because at the end of the day, Tony Khan didn't do any favors to his company at all this year. You know what I'm saying? The rise, the fall, and now let's talk about the future. And the future, it was kind of bright. But if you're going to stick to a storyline, you better stick to it. Because what you did last year at the World's End, you didn't stick to the storyline of the Devil storyline. The Devil storyline, now you want to bring it back. Now, with this Adam Cole versus MJF for the AEW ring, which I don't want to see MJF winning the AEW ring. What's the point of this ring? What's the point of having this battle royal crap that you do every year and we all know MJF is going to win? That doesn't make no sense at all. At all. And so the future to me, it looks like this. because of what happened at I think it was September after All In. Okay, I believe Moxley heard somebody talking about the young wrestlers. Oh, we don't have to have scripts, storylines ready because they mid-card wrestlers. So pretty much whoever said that, they were talking about the jobbers or the mid-card guys who don't really get a lot of TV time. They kind of pissed off John Moxley, and Moxley decided that he wanted to be a heel. From that time, the Death Riders were born, which they were known as the Blackpool Combat Club. No longer are the Blackpool Combat Club, because after Bryan Danielson lost the belt to John Moxley at, I believe, was Wrestle Dream, that's when the Death Riders were born. And you saw the beginning of that storyline when they started using the younger guys, the private parties, the top flight, or whatever. The only problem I had with that was you're putting guys that people don't care anymore, because at the end of the day, they've been around for 5 years and you have not done anything with them. You kept bringing in established starts. Meanwhile, the private parties, the top flight, the Andretti, all these guys were not being used correctly. Commanders and stuff like that. The only guys that really they've always kept pushing is Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin and whatnot. Jack Perry was being pushed, but Jack Perry looks now that he may be turning against the Young Bucks and whatnot because of what happened at Strong Evolve in New Japan. So, I mean, we saw it, but then now we got to ask this question. And that question is, you use the younger guys, you're pushing the younger guys now, because Private Party got the AEW Tag Team Championships, but now you started pushing these guys a little bit. Now you're putting the most established stars, as we know, the World's End. We're going to see a 4-way match between Jay White, Hangman Page, Orange Cassidy, and John Moxley for the AEW World title. Now, I predicted that somewhere, somehow, that Shane McMahon may pop out at World's End next Saturday. Okay? Now, you may say, oh, but we haven't heard anything. But remember, there was a report during the summer that Shane McMahon was thinking of coming in for AEW. And what way better to him to get even with WWE after he didn't even get not even a dollar out of the company that his father built. And when Stephanie McMahon's still around, Triple H is still around, he got left out. Meanwhile, his father and his mother got their own issues going on. But I predicted that Shane McMahon might be the surprise, the ending of World's End. And I said somebody's going to be a 4-way or a tag team. Something's going to happen. That's the future. Now, if this happens, this is going to be incredible. Because first of all, they brought in Hurt Syndicate, which they brought Shelton Benjamin. They brought in MVP. They brought Bobby Lashley. That storyline is looking good. It looks like Ricochet may turn heel, and I could see Ricochet becoming one of those members. Maybe hurting no other than Swerve Strickland, since Swerve Strickland is still feuding with Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate. I could see Ricochet turning heel and becoming the 4th member and whatnot. Even though I thought it was going to be Max Caster, but Max Caster, you haven't seen him around. I don't know if it's in hot water or not, but you don't see the Acclaim anymore, and the Acclaim looks like they're about to break up anyway. So, what I saw this week with Ricochet, it looks like Ricochet is going to be the 4th member of the Hurt Syndicate, because, again, during the Shelton Benjamin match and whatnot, he did, I think it was against Commander. I could be wrong. MVP said, if you want to impress the Hurt Syndicate, hurt somebody. And the person who's rolled up on Ricochet was Swerve Strickland. So I could see that happening where Swerve may be going in the ring trying to get even, and here comes Ricochet and pretty much deals with that. So the way I'm looking at AEW right now, because of what they suffered this year, this was the 5th year being a company. They got their TV deals. That was a good part. That's the good part about it. They got the TV deal, I think 3 or 4 years worth, a lot of money. I don't know how much is it, but Little by little, they're going to try to build themselves up. And according to reports that Tony Khan was concentrating and dealing with AEW and whatnot, they started doing now shows in smaller arenas. That's what he should be doing, in smaller arenas. So you go to the small arenas, you become popular. Now that other, a lot of people going to want to see more of AEW. Not try to do a 10,000, get a 10,000 seat stadium and want to do AEW Dynamite and only get 3,000, which makes no sense and whatnot. So what he needs to do is, concentrate on that. Stop thinking of trying to overpower WWE. You're not. You're nowhere near that. I don't care what anybody tells me. You're not nowhere near that. And WWE right now, they're on a roll. They're on a roll. And as much as I'm not a big fan of WWE, the way they do things and whatever, but I've been watching WWE this year. Their shows have been very improvement. Even though that Saturday Night main event, I call it a Saturday Night Raw event because that's what it was. But, you got your WWE people that be like, oh, no, it wasn't. It was like a pay-per-view quality. No, it wasn't pay-per-view quality. No, it wasn't. Chelsea Green winning the United States Women's Championship. It's not considered pay-per-view. Okay, I'm sorry. She was going to win the shit anyway. Okay. So WWE right now is still number one. That's even if how they were 2019, 5 years ago before AEW started. Their show sucked, but they're still number one. The only thing that AEW has right now an advantage of is, number one, they still can make Ring of Honor a legit promotion again. You know what I'm saying? Get a TV deal for Ring of Honor. You know what I'm saying? Even though there's word that Fox Sports may take Ring of Honor and put them in TV. Okay. Second of all, Rampage is going to be gone. Rampage is done. After the end of this year, Rampage is done. You're not going to see Rampage. Okay. Rampage is done. Collision, they could stop building Collision and make it a second like SmackDown and make it worth watching. Okay. Now, the problem is now you're only going to have two shows. You're only going to have 4 hours. There's word, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but there's word that the Warner Brothers want a third hour on AEW and whatnot. It's bad enough you got 2 hours and you barely can make me stay up to 2 hours to watch it. You're going to put a third hour and whatnot. Nobody's going to stay up to watch AEW 3 hours unless you're going to have it pay-per-view quality matches every week. And they used to do this. When they started, their matches were bangers. Boom. Even though they were a storyline and whatnot. I saw not long ago, I saw a video of what Jake Roberts first came to AEW and confronted Cody Rhodes. Those days were good. The problem with AEW is they don't only have cliffhangers anymore. They don't. They have matches. Oh, this happens, but nothing really happens. You know what I'm saying? Even though I can see lately with the introduction of the show looks different. They trying to be like WWE. You see them coming in, whatever. Or it could be the other way around. WWE took that away from them because WWE started doing that a couple of years ago and whatnot. But they weren't doing that before. But, to me, it's AEW needs to stick to what they're doing right now. They got to end the year with some type of surprise where it's going to get people talking. It's going to have people saying to themselves, well, this is going to be a good show for the next week. Leave a cliffhanger. And the AEW World's End coming up next Saturday, you should leave that show the way you left it with like Wrestle Dream, wondering what's going to happen next. Cliffhangers. That is the key for a company to succeed. Every week, leave a cliffhanger. Make people want to tune in again to watch the show. Now don't say, oh, this is the main event and that's it. People going to the back and no story. What's going to happen? No one cares. Why not? Because a lot of people you got your AEW haters at the end of the day. I don't listen to them because at the end, let's think about it. A couple of years ago and whatnot, about 10 years ago, I remember when I was watching WWE. I wasn't crazy about WWE. TNA sucked, which they still do. Okay. And I remember started watching Ring of Honor. Now it was something different. And I knew Ring of Honor didn't have the numbers of WWE, but I liked watching it. entertain myself, something different. Or not. Here we are 5 years later, we have AEW, and AEW right now is still the second promotion in the United States, but they have an advantage. They have an advantage for the simple fact they're still working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're about to do AEW. AEW is about to do the Wrestle Dream, where you got the Ring of Honor, you got CMML, you got New Japan. I think they have RPW or Red Pro in there. Also Stardom. That's what they got to keep doing. You know what I'm saying? That's the advantage that they have because they're working with other promotions. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they got to stick to what they know. And that's leave cliffhangers and not leaving cliffhangers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the bad part. That's the bad part, which I think that they're not doing. And that's the cliffhanger. You might have Kenny Omega may be coming back, but the last thing I heard was Kenny Omega was going to work in New Japan. I don't know how much he's going to be working in AEW, but he's going to be working in New Japan. And that might be the bridge to help build a better relationship with New Japan. I mean, they already got a good relationship with New Japan. They got a good relationship with CMML. You know what I'm saying? They should have signed Stephanie Vaquel when they had the chance for Vaquel, and then like she wanted to work with WWE. They could have had Julia, but Julia went to WWE, and there was a lot of they had a lot of opportunities, and they never got. The women's division is kind of a little strong now. Julia Hart is back, but again, you got the good, the bad, and the ugly this year with 2024 with AEW, and most of it was ugly and bad. They had there's hope in the future. They got the new TV deal, which everybody and the clowns in the podcast world was talking about. Oh, WWE is going to go and going to be in TBS and TNT. That didn't happen. They're going to Netflix. AEW got the TV deals. Okay, we even heard TNA was going to be the second best company in North America. They're losing wrestlers by the minute and whatnot. So much for TNA being the second. They're gonna the word around the beginning of the year. Oh, TNA is gonna take over the second spot. They're gonna be, and they even went as far to even work with WWE. That didn't work. They lost everything. They lost Scott D'Amore. Once Scott D'Amore is gone, that's it. That was done. They were done. And now what did the AEW did? Let's work with Maple Leaf Wrestling. Let's work with Scott D'Amore's promotion. Scott D'Amore ends up in AEW. You can best believe it's over. It's over. But again, would Tony Khan allow that? I don't know. But so that's it for me, guys. This is it for me today. As far wanted to bring you the AEW wrestling, my thoughts and what happened to AEW this year. They still got opportunities. Again, they got the Hurt Business. You got Tony Khan. You got the Hurt Business. You have Okada. You have Will Ospreay. Kyle Fletcher is coming on his own. The whole Don Callis family is becoming that good. Konosuke Takeshita, that guy's top star. They just got to know what to do. Stop signing all these wrestlers. Stop it. That's it. Don't sign anybody else. That's it. You got a crop of wrestlers. You don't need to sign any more WWE wrestlers. You don't. Okay? Work on those. Get rid of the guys that you're not really using. Okay? Miro wants to leave. Show him the door. Ray Phoenix don't want to stay around. Show him the door. Penta is gone. Okay? Work with what you have. Don't stop signing these WWE wrestlers and whatnot. You got young wrestlers in there. You got, you do have Top Flight, which is a great tag team. You know what I'm saying? You got Leo Rush in there. You got Daniel Garcia and whatnot. You got guys who, Brody King, who's a beast. You got Buddy Murphy or Buddy Matthews, whatever his name is. Okay. You still got Malachi Black. Use these people. You got Jay White. You got MJF. You got a quality people. Okay. And then you got a roster in Ring of Honor that you could still use whenever the hell you want. Make something out of this. Because this year, AEW suffered a lot, especially in the ratings. They didn't get to hit 1 million. They haven't hit 1 million fans since March of 2023. That's how long they haven't hit that 30 mark at all. A year ago, the most they done this year, I think, was 800,000. The most. The lowest, I just said it, 329,000. You know what I'm saying? People could talk about NXT, the NXT, they're 500, 400. They're beating AEW every week. They just beat us again. Well, I'm going to say us, but they just beat us. Because I'm an AEW fan. I want AEW to succeed. You know what I'm saying? I do really want AEW to succeed. You know? But you can't succeed if you keep signing wrestlers and playing with your toys and then forget about your other toys. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. That is it for me today, guys. Again, sorry for the delay. I started very late today. I usually do my podcast by 12. Today, I just wasn't up to par. I started, and then next thing you know, I had audio problems and blase. But we did it. So if you guys want to follow me, you got right there. You got Facebook, Instagram, the X, and YouTube, of course. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and whatnot, and hit that notification bell for new uploads. Check out my other content that I have there. I got a bunch of content and whatnot. This is episode 224. So check out the content, check out the shorts that I have there and whatnot. We're trying to do something different for next year. Let's see what happens. Also, check out the podcast store. In case you guys, it's Christmas time. Christmas is a couple of days, and you go to the podcast store to get the podcast apparel. You go to get your t-shirts, your hats, your hoodie. You go to tcwr.veryinkpressive.com. Again, that's tcwr.veryinkpressive.com, and check out the hoodies, the hats, the shirts. Got 3 different shirts in there, and support the podcast, guys. Support the podcast. Appreciate for all those. We're trying to get to 500. We're 111 subscriber short from hitting that 500 mark and whatnot. So support. Next week, I will be on, and we're gonna be talking about World's End. We'll give you the highs and lows of World's End coming up, and that'll probably be my last podcast of the year and whatnot. I probably also will give you the top 5 stories. I'm probably gonna go live. Now we'll probably go live, and probably it's gonna be a long one because I want to just close it down with a bang. We're going to talk about the top 5 stories from my podcast. I don't know about everybody else. My top 5 podcasts that I did this year, and it was talked about. We're going to be talking about Dave Meltzer, the Vince McMahon situation. I'm sure there's some Tony Khan shit there somewhere there. I got to check it out. And of course, also, guys, support the TikTok for what. I got a TikTok, and the TikTok is the Chokeslam Wrestling. For what it's going to last, because supposedly they're saying they're going to close down TikTok, but I do not know yet. But support it. You know what I'm saying? Support the podcast. Support what I do here and whatnot. Hopefully, you guys share it. Share the podcast and check out the content. Subscribe to the channel. And, we do what we do. So until then, guys, we will see you next week with more of the Chokeslam Wrestling Report.